The warning ignored. The crystalline halls of the Celestial Dominion's capital ship reflected thousands of colored lights as War Marshal Theta limped through the entrance. His once pristine armor bore scorch marks and crude repairs. The synthetic flesh covering his cybernetic arm had been replaced with human battlefield gauze. Every step sent pain through his body, but the physical wounds were nothing compared to what he had witnessed on the blue planet called Earth. The Grand Assembly Chamber stretched before him like an arena of judgment. Representatives from the 47 species of the Celestial Dominion sat in ascending tiers, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity. At the center, Supreme Overlord Vaxian floated in his anti-gravity throne, his translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated mild curiosity rather than concern. Theta took his position at the testimony platform. The neural scanner activated automatically, projecting his credentials and service record for all to see. 300 years of military service, 17 successful planetary conquests, 0 defeats until now. Supreme Overlord Vaxian's telepathic voice resonated through the chamber. War Marshal Theta, you return from what our strategic computers calculated as a routine subjugation mission. Earth was classified as a Level 3 civilization, barely space-capable with no unified planetary government. Yet you return with less than 10% of your invasion force. Explain this failure, Theta straightened despite the pain. Supreme Overlord honored delegates, I must report that our classification system is dangerously flawed when applied to the human species. They are not a Level 3 civilization in the ways that matter for warfare. They are something else entirely, something our models cannot comprehend. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Zephrani delegate, a being of pure energy contained in a mechanical shell, flickered with amusement. Are you suggesting that primitives who still use chemical propulsion and kinetic weapons somehow defeated the Dominion's finest troops? I am stating it as fact, Theta replied. When we arrived in their system, we followed standard protocols. We demonstrated our technological superiority, destroyed their primitive satellite network, and demanded surrender. Their response was not fear or submission. They broadcast a single message to their entire planet. They're here. You know what to do. The Assembly's reaction ranged from confusion to dismissal. Supreme Overlord Vaxian's colors shifted to a pattern of mild irritation. And this cryptic message somehow led to your defeat? It activated something that had been prepared for generations, Theta explained. We discovered later that humans have been preparing for alien contact since they developed the concept. Not hoping for it, not dreaming of it, but preparing for war. Every piece of their entertainment media about aliens involves conflict. They have contingency plans for invasion scenarios that would seem like paranoid fantasies for any other species. Administrator Kelmoth from the Efficiency Council interjected, her forearms moving in a gesture of skepticism. Paranoid fantasies do not win wars against plasma cannons and force fields. Theta's mandibles clicked in what humans had taught him was ironic appreciation. No, but understanding war at a fundamental level does. When we landed our forces, we expected military resistance at key points. Instead, every human became a combatant. They have a saying, every blade of grass hides a rifle. It's not metaphorical. He paused, accessing his neural implants to project holographic recordings from his armor's sensors. The assembly watched as Dominion dropships descended on what appeared to be a peaceful suburban area. Within seconds, windows became sniper nests. Vehicles became battering rams. Children threw improvised explosives while elderly humans provided covering fire with weapons that seemed ancient, but proved devastatingly effective. This is chaos, declared War Coordinator Jaxtel. No military doctrine supports such random violence. That's where you're wrong, Theta countered. It only appears random because we don't understand their psychology. Humans have been killing each other for their entire evolutionary history. They've developed thousands of ways to kill, refined over millennia of constant conflict. When they turned these methods against us, they weren't using military doctrine. They were using instinct. Supreme Overlord Vaxian's patience was wearing thin, his body now glowing with sharp, aggressive patterns. Instinct does not overcome superior firepower and technology. You had energy shields, plasma weapons, and tactical superiority? We had tactical superiority in conventional warfare, Theta corrected. But humans don't fight conventional wars. They fight what they call total war. every resource becomes a weapon. Every person becomes a soldier. Every piece of ground becomes a battlefield. When we destroyed their military bases, they fought from schools. When we leveled their schools, they fought from hospitals. When we destroyed their cities, they fought from ruins and sewers and forests. He projected another recording. This one showed a Dominion patrol being ambushed in what had been marked as a cleared zone. The humans appeared from nowhere, struck with primitive but effective weapons, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They call it guerrilla warfare, Crexitheta explained, named after one of their earth animals that fights larger predators through cunning and ferocity. But what truly makes humans dangerous isn't their tactics. It's their psychology. They don't fight to win. They fight to make their enemy lose. The Yorthan delegate, whose species valued honor and combat above all else, rose from his seat. You speak in riddles, War Marshal. War is about victory or defeat. Not for humans, Crexitheta replied grimly. They have another saying, victory or death, but they've modified it. For them, it's victory through death if necessary. They will sacrifice 1,000 of their own to kill one of ours if that one death serves a greater purpose. They destroyed their own infrastructure to deny us resources. They poisoned their own water supplies to prevent us from using them. They turned their own planet into a weapon against us. Supreme Overlord Vaxian floated higher, his form now radiating authority. Enough! You describe barbarians, not a threat to the Celestial Dominion. We have conquered hundreds of worlds, brought order to chaos across the galaxy. These humans are an anomaly, nothing more. With respect, Supreme Overlord, you're making the same mistake I did, Crexitheta said urgently. I thought superior technology guaranteed victory. But humans have something more dangerous than technology. They have will. Unbreakable, unreasonable, uncompromising will. When we captured their soldiers, they didn't break under interrogation. They sang songs. When we destroyed their cities, they didn't despair. They got angry. When we killed their leaders, they didn't surrender. They promoted others and fought harder. War Coordinator Jaxtel laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You paint them as immortal warriors, yet here you stand alive, while many of them are dead. I stand here because they let me escape, Crexitheta admitted, knowing how this would sound. In our final battle, when my command post was overrun, a human soldier could have killed me. Instead, she looked at me and said, "Go home. Tell them what you've seen. Tell them we're waiting." They wanted me to deliver this warning. The assembly erupted in outrage. The idea that primitives would show mercy to a Dominion war marshal as some kind of message was insulting beyond measure. Supreme Overlord Vaxian's form blazed with fury. "Silence," he commanded. "War Marshal Crexitheta, you will report to the Medical Council for psychological evaluation. Your defeat has clearly affected your judgment. The humans are primitives who got lucky against an overconfident commander, nothing more." "Supreme Overlord, please," Crexitheta pleaded. "If you send another fleet, send one prepared for unconventional warfare. Study their history. Learn their tactics. Understand that they've been preparing for this moment since they first looked at the stars and wondered if they were alone." "The discussion is ended," Supreme Overlord Vaxian declared. "In 3 cycles, we will send a proper armada. 100,000 ships, 500 million warriors. We will glass their planet from orbit if necessary. The Celestial Dominion does not negotiate with primitives, and we certainly don't fear them." As Crexitheta was escorted from the chamber, he heard the assembly already beginning to plan the second invasion. They spoke of overwhelming force, of shock and awe, of making an example of Earth that would echo across the galaxy. Not one of them asked about human history. Not one studied their wars. Not one understood what Crexitheta had learned. In Blood and Horror, humans had a military philosophy they called asymmetric warfare, where the weaker force uses unconventional methods to defeat a stronger enemy. But what the assembly didn't understand was that humans had been practicing asymmetric warfare against each other for so long that it had become their primary form of combat. They were experts at being the underdog, masters of turning disadvantage into victory. As Crexitheta was taken to the medical facility, he thought about the human soldier who had spared him. She had been young by their standards, covered in mud and blood, holding a primitive projectile weapon, but her eyes had held something that no amount of technology could match: determination. Not just to survive, but to win at any cost. The Celestial Dominion was about to learn what Crexitheta had learned. Humans didn't need superior technology to win wars. They had something far more dangerous. They had evolved on a death world, fighting everything including each other for millions of years. War wasn't something humans did. War was what humans were. The reckoning 3 cycles passed with the efficiency that the Celestial Dominion was famous for across the galaxy. The armada that assembled at the edge of the Sol system was the largest military force ever deployed in the Dominion's 5,000-year history. 100,000 vessels ranging from planet-killing dreadnoughts to nimble fighter craft. 500 million warriors from 15 different species, each bringing their unique capabilities to the combined force. Admiral Zixara commanded from the flagship Inevitable Victory, a vessel so massive it generated its own gravitational field. Unlike the disgraced Crex Theta, Zixara was a being of pure logic and calculated violence. His species, the Nexari, had evolved from machines and viewed war as a mathematical equation. Superior numbers plus superior firepower equaled victory. There were no variables for human stubbornness in his calculations. "Admiral, we are detecting significant activity in the Sol system," reported the sensor operator. "The humans appear to be broadcasting on all frequencies." "Surrender messages?" Zixara asked, though his tone suggested he didn't expect or care about surrender. "Negative, Admiral. They're broadcasting music. And something else. Historical documents about their wars. Technical specifications of our vessels from the previous invasion. Tactical analyses of our battle formations. They're teaching the entire galaxy how to fight us." Zixara processed this information for exactly 2 seconds before dismissing it. "Irrelevant. Begin the advance. Execute invasion pattern Omega. No planetary bombardment until we've secured orbit. The Supreme Overlord wants prisoners to parade before the assembly." The Armada moved toward Earth in perfect formation, a testament to Dominion discipline and coordination. As they passed Mars, the first surprise revealed itself. The red planet, which intelligence had marked as barely colonized, erupted with activity. Hundreds of human vessels emerged from concealed bases, but they didn't attack. They simply broadcast more information, then retreated toward Earth. "They're consolidating their forces," the tactical officer observed. "Shall we pursue?" "Negative! Maintain formation. They're drawing us into a concentrated battle zone, where our numbers advantage is minimized. We won't fall for such primitive tactics." But as the Armada approached Earth, it became clear that the humans had done something unprecedented. In 3 cycles, they had transformed their planet into a fortress. Orbital defense platforms constructed from salvaged Dominion technology and human innovation created overlapping fields of fire. The moon had been turned into a massive military base. Even the orbital debris from Earth's centuries of space exploration had been weaponized into minefields. More disturbing were the ships. Where Crex Theta had faced 200 crewed vessels, Zixara now saw thousands. They weren't elegant or sophisticated by Dominion standards, but there were so many. It seemed impossible that a single planet could produce such numbers in 3 cycles. "Admiral," the intelligence officer announced with confusion, "we're detecting Dominion technology signatures in those vessels, but also Yorthan power cores, Zephrani shield generators, even Klaxian stealth systems. How do they have technology from species across the galaxy?" The answer came in the form of a broadcast from Earth. Not to the Armada, but to the galaxy at large. A human appeared on the screen, middle-aged by their standards, wearing a uniform that combined elements from dozens of Earth military traditions. "Citizens of the galaxy," the human said, "I am General Marcus Stone, speaking for the United Forces of Earth and our allies. 3 cycles ago, the Celestial Dominion attempted to conquer our world. We sent them home with a message. Today, they return with a larger force, believing that numbers alone determine victory. They're about to learn why humans have a saying, 'The enemy of my enemy is my friend.'" The screen split to show multiple feeds from across the galaxy. On Yorth Prime, warriors were overwhelming Dominion garrisons using human guerrilla tactics. On Zephyr, energy beings were disrupting Dominion communications using strategies learned from human cyber warfare. On dozens of worlds, rebellions were erupting simultaneously, all coordinated, all using human tactical doctrine. "You gave us 3 cycles," General Stone continued. "In that time, we didn't just prepare Earth's defenses. We reached out to every species under Dominion rule. We shared our knowledge of warfare, our tactics, our indomitable spirit. We taught them something the Dominion never understood. Freedom isn't given, it's taken." Admiral Zixara's processors calculated probabilities at light speed. The simultaneous rebellions would force the Dominion to recall ships to defend key worlds. But the Armada was already committed to Earth. To retreat now would show weakness. To advance would mean fighting without reinforcements. All ships, maximum acceleration, Zixara commanded. We crush Earth quickly, then deal with the rebellions. The battle that followed would be studied for millennia across the galaxy. The humans didn't fight like any species the Dominion had encountered. Their ships didn't maintain formation. They swarmed like insects, each vessel acting independently yet somehow coordinated. When Dominion weapons locked onto them, they scattered. When Dominion ships pursued, they regrouped and struck from unexpected angles. But the true shock came when the humans began ramming. Not as a last resort, but as a primary tactic. Ships filled with explosives and volunteers who had recorded farewell messages to their families. The Dominion forces watched in horror as humans deliberately flew into their vessels, trading one human ship for damage to vessels worth 1,000 times more. They're insane, the tactical officer said, watching another kamikaze run destroy a Dominion cruiser's shield generator. No, Zixara replied, finally beginning to understand what Crextheta had tried to warn them about. They're human. The battle raged for hours. For every human ship destroyed, 3 more seemed to take its place. The orbital platforms, when damaged, were deliberately crashed into Dominion vessels. The moon base, when its shields failed, revealed itself to be one massive bomb that detonated with enough force to cripple 1/10 of the Armada. But humanity's greatest weapon revealed itself when boarding parties reached Dominion ships. The humans didn't just fight. They adapted. They learned Dominion technology in real time, turning captured weapons against their creators. They used Dominion medical equipment to keep wounded humans fighting long past when they should have died. They even began broadcasting from captured ships, teaching other humans how to operate alien technology as they learned it themselves. General Stone's voice cut through the chaos of battle. Admiral Zixara, this is Earth Command. You're probably wondering how we're holding our own against your superior forces. The answer is simple. You fight wars. We are war. Every human grows up learning about conflict. Our children play games that simulate battle. Our entertainment celebrates warriors. Our history is written in blood. You had to train your soldiers to fight. We had to train ours not to. Zixara's perfect calculations crumbled as reports flooded in. The rebellions across the galaxy were succeeding. Dominion forces, stretched thin and demoralized by the fierce resistance, were being overwhelmed by species they had controlled for centuries, all using human tactics, all fighting with human determination. The moment of final realization came when Earth's forces suddenly stopped fighting. They pulled back, creating a corridor for the Dominion fleet to retreat. General Stone appeared on the communication screen again. Admiral, you have a choice. Take your remaining ships and leave. Tell the Dominion that humanity offers this one chance. End your empire of conquest. Allow species their freedom. Or continue this fight and watch as we teach the entire galaxy how to destroy you, not with superior technology, but with superior will. Zixara's logic processors presented him with the calculations. The Armada was down to 60% strength. Reinforcements were impossible with the galaxy in rebellion. Continuing the battle would mean total destruction. But the alternative was admitting defeat to primitives. You think you've won, Zixara transmitted to Earth. But the Dominion will return. We will adapt. We will overcome. General Stone smiled, an expression that somehow conveyed both sadness and determination. That's what we're counting on, Admiral. You see, humans don't just win wars. We win the peace that follows. We'll be waiting when you come back. But next time you won't be facing just humans. You'll be facing a galaxy that learned from us. A galaxy that knows freedom is worth any price. The retreat of the Celestial Dominion Armada marked the end of an era in galactic history. The mighty empire that had ruled through fear and superior firepower crumbled in the face of something they had never calculated for. The human spirit spread across the stars like a virus of freedom. On Earth, as victory celebrations began, General Stone stood in the command center looking at the casualty reports. Millions dead, cities in ruins, an entire generation scarred by war. But humanity had done what it always did. It survived. It adapted. It overcame. And across the galaxy, on 100 worlds, new governments were forming. Species that had been subjects were becoming citizens. The Celestial Dominion's rigid order was being replaced by something chaotic, dangerous, and beautifully alive. Freedom. The veterans of the war would later say that humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating the Dominion. It was teaching the galaxy that no force, no matter how powerful, could conquer the will of those who refused to kneel. The humans had given the galaxy something more precious than technology or territory. They had given them hope. In the ruins of the Dominion capital, Crex Theta stood before the disbanded assembly. Many seats were empty. Their occupants fled or overthrown. Supreme Overlord Vaxian's crystalline form was dim, cracked from the stress of watching his empire collapse. "You tried to warn us," Vaxian admitted, his telepathic voice weak. "We didn't listen." Crexatheta's mandibles moved, and what he had learned from humans was a sad smile. The humans have a saying: those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The Dominion studied war as a science. Humans lived it as an art. That was the difference. As the galaxy reshaped itself, with humans serving as advisors and teachers to newly free species, one truth became clear. The Celestial Dominion had made the fatal mistake of attacking a species that had been preparing for this moment since they first looked at the stars. Not preparing for first contact, preparing for war, because that's what humans were. Not a species that had learned war, a species that was born from it, shaped by it, and ultimately defined by their ability to transform it into a tool for freedom. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere on Earth, in schools where children learned about the Great Victory, teachers made sure to include one final lesson. We won not because we were stronger, but because we were willing to pay any price for freedom. Remember that. The galaxy is watching, and we must be worthy of the example we've set. The war was over, but for humanity, the real challenge had just begun. Teaching a galaxy how to live free, it would be their greatest battle yet.